The Human in Chains. The sun was dark and red over the gladiator arena of Zelatrix Prime, a planet where blood and battle were entertainment. Thousands of aliens filled the stadium, screaming and roaring for the next fight. Metal doors slammed, open. Out came the next fighter, but he didn't walk with pride. He was dragged, a human. His hands were tied, heavy chains clinked around his arms and legs. His clothes were torn. His eyes looked tired but not afraid. He didn't fight or scream. He simply looked up at the massive crowd with a calm face. The announcer's voice echoed through the stadium. "Behold, the strange and silent creature, from Earth, a lower species, weak, simple, but today he shall entertain us." The crowd laughed. Some aliens threw food at him, others made rude sounds, but the human, named Jax, didn't blink. High above the fighting pit in the Emperor's box sat a tall, glowing alien female with golden armor and a proud smirk on her face. Her name was Virelia, a war princess of the Zelatrix Empire. She was known for her beauty and cruelty and for hating humans. "That's the one?" she asked her guard, raising one brow. "Yes, Princess Virelia," the guard replied. "The human who refused to kneel when captured." Her smile widened. "Then I'll enjoy watching him break." As Jax was pulled into the middle of the pit, alien guards forced him to his knees. A loud bell rang and the ground shook. Out of the opposite gate marched a beast, a giant alien warrior with 4 arms, sharp teeth, and glowing red eyes. "Kill him," someone in the crowd shouted. But Jax didn't even flinch. The beast charged. Dust flew in the air. The ground trembled with every step. But before the fight began, Virelia raised her hand. "Wait," she said. The beast stopped. She stood from her high seat and floated down into the arena with grace. The crowd gasped and bowed. No one expected the princess to step into the pit herself. She walked slowly to Jax, circling him like a lion does its prey. "So, this is the mighty human everyone keeps whispering about," she said mockingly. "You don't look like much." Jax didn't answer. She poked him on the shoulder. Still, no reaction. She poked him again, harder. "Are you deaf? Or just dumb?" Jax looked up at her for the first time. His eyes were calm, cold, dangerous. "You enjoy poking things you don't understand," he said quietly. The crowd went silent. Virelia blinked, surprised he finally spoke. Then she laughed loudly. "So the dog has a voice. Tell me, little creature, do you even know where you are?" Jax answered with a question. "Do you?" She slapped him across the face. The guards moved in, but Virelia held up her hand. "No, let him speak." Blood dripped from the corner of Jax's mouth. He slowly turned his face back toward her. "You think this is your world," he said, "but you're just playing queen in a cage. You mistake your loudness for power." The arena was so quiet you could hear the wind. Virelia bent down, her face just inches from his. "You're very bold for someone in chains." Jax's voice dropped to a whisper. "Chains don't scare me, but fools do." Then it happened. In one quick movement, Jax lunged forward and bit her hand, hard. She screamed. Alien blood splashed on the floor. Her guards rushed forward. The crowd exploded. Into noise, some laughing, some screaming, others in complete shock. No one had ever touched Virelia like that, let alone a human. Virelia stepped back, holding her hand, shaking in rage and disbelief. Her eyes glowed with fury. "He bit me!" she shouted. Jax looked up at her, calm as ever. "Now you'll remember me," he said. Virelia's fists clenched. Her pride burned hotter than the desert sun. But before she could order his head removed, a council elder in silver robes stood and spoke. "He has challenged you," the elder said. "Under Zelatrix law, you must now face him in the ritual of proving. You must beat him fairly or accept defeat." Virelia froze. The law was ancient, sacred. Even she could not break it. She turned back to Jax. He was still kneeling, but not broken. This human had just turned the galaxy's most feared warrior princess into a participant, not a judge. And it had all started with a single bite. The bite heard across the galaxy. The news spread like wildfire. Across the 12 moons of the Zelatrix Empire, screens blinked and broadcasted one headline again and again. Human bites royal blood. Ritual of proving activated. In the underground fight clubs, aliens placed bets. On royal ships, noble families whispered in disbelief. And deep in the High Council chambers, ancient elders debated the meaning of it all. But inside the stone chamber of the arena prison, Jack sat alone, his arms no longer chained but still bruised. He stared at the wall, calm and focused. A shadow entered. It was Grakon, an old battle-worn alien who once served as a top general, but was now a forgotten relic of war. His scales were dull, his horns cracked, but his eyes still held fire. "You're a madman," Grakon said, stepping into the cell. Jax didn't look up. "Am I? You bit a royal princess in front of half the galaxy. She kept poking me." Grakon burst into laughter, the kind that echoed like thunder in the silence. "You're not just mad. You're dangerous. I like that." Jax raised an eyebrow. "You here to warn me?" "No," Grakon said, pulling up a stone bench and sitting. "I'm here to remind you that you just entered a ritual you don't fully understand." "I know what I did," Jax replied. Grakon leaned closer. "Do you know what she is?" Jax stayed quiet. Grakon smirked. "Virelia is more than a princess. She's a dominance-bonded war heir. Her body is trained to submit only to one stronger than her. That bite? It wasn't just rebellion. It was a declaration. A declaration of what? That you want to claim her? In the old way?" Jax's eyes narrowed slightly. "I didn't mean that." "Too late," Grakon said, standing. "Now the galaxy thinks you did. And by law she has to either defeat you or accept your dominance. There is no middle ground." Meanwhile, in her royal healing chamber, Virelia was burning with anger. But not just from the wound. Her hand was already healed by advanced tech, but her pride was still bleeding. Her royal assistants tried to calm her. "Princess, you must destroy him. He's nothing, High One, just a savage. Let us poison his food, one drop and—" "No," Virelia shouted. "He humiliated me in front of all. I will answer the challenge, with fire, with fists, with everything I have." She stood and looked at her reflection in the mirror. For the first time, she saw a slight blush on her cheeks. Confusion. Why didn't he fight back before? Why did he only strike when it truly mattered? And why? Why did she feel her heart race when he looked her in the eyes? She whispered to herself, "He didn't want to kill me. He wanted to prove something." Later that night, lights flared in the sky as Trial 1 was officially announced by the Council. The fire proving shall begin at dawn. Across the arena camps, aliens cheered. Giant screens flashed images of past warriors who burned or survived. The trial of fire had not been used in over a century. Back in the prison cell, Jack stood up as the door opened. 2 guards entered with a clean shirt, thick boots, and armor designed for combat. "Prepare," one said. "Tomorrow you walk into fire." Jax took the armor but didn't answer. Grakon watched him from the corner. "This ritual was designed to destroy fools." "I'm not here to win," Jax said. "I'm here to finish what she started." "And what if she finishes? You instead?" Jax finally smiled. A small, dangerous smile. "Then she'll remember who showed her what real strength means." Training the beast. Within the sun had not yet risen, but the trial grounds of Volcor were already alive with heat. Smoke rose from burning vents. The ground cracked beneath every step. The air itself shimmered with fire. Most warriors spent weeks preparing for this trial. But Jax had only hours, and yet he was calm. Inside a small chamber beneath the arena, Jack sat on the floor cross-legged, eyes closed, breathing steady. No weapons, no armor, just silence. Suddenly, a heavy door slid open. Grakon entered again, carrying a small black device. He tossed it to Jax, who caught it without looking. "It's a flame suit," Grakon said. "Military tech, it can help." Jax opened one eye. I don't need it. Graken frowned. Are you trying to die? I already told you I'm not here to win the trial. Graken leaned against the wall. Then why are you doing this? Jack stood slowly. Because she started something when she touched me, and I won't let her finish it without understanding what she woke up. Meanwhile, on the other side of the trial grounds, Princess Virelia was going through a very different type of preparation. She was surrounded by alien healers, war generals, and data maps. Here, a general pointed at the map. You'll face heat vents that can melt metal. At Sector 7, lava beasts roam wild. Stay high. Use speed. But Virelia wasn't listening. She was looking at Jax's image on the monitor. A still frame from when he bit her. His face was calm, not angry, not wild, just deliberate. Why didn't he kill me when he could? She whispered. Her advisors looked at each other nervously. Princess? Nothing, she snapped. I'll end this trial in the first hour. He's just a human. But deep down, she was no longer sure. As the sun rose, both fighters stood at separate gates facing. The Volcor Wild Zone, a massive screen counted down. 3, 2, 1. A loud horn blared, gates opened, and the fire greeted them like a dragon. Jack stepped forward barefoot, no armor, no flame suit. The crowd gasped. Is he insane? Someone shouted. He'll burn in minutes, another said. But as the flames whipped past him, something strange happened. They moved around him, like the fire respected him. Jax didn't run. He walked slowly, feeling the heat, sensing the land. He found a high ridge and studied the glowing vents. Then he crouched and waited. Virelia, on the other hand, dashed forward, slicing lava beasts and climbing cliffs. She moved with power and rage. Every step was fast. Every moment was loud. But she wasn't watching. She was rushing. Soon she reached a cracked bridge made of black stone. Lava flowed below. A fire beast with 3 heads blocked her path. She roared and charged it. But back at Jax's side of the trial, he watched the clouds. He felt the rhythm of the ground. Then he moved. Not fast, but precise. Using shadows. Jumping between stone pillars. Avoiding fire blasts as if he knew exactly when they would come. He's reading the land, whispered Graken, watching from the council room. He's not fighting the fire. He's dancing with it. An hour later, both warriors reached the same ridge but from opposite sides. They locked eyes through the smoke. Virelia was sweating, her armor burned in places. Jack stood calmly, no burns, no bruises. She couldn't believe it. How? She asked. He tilted his head. You fight like a storm, loud, angry, but fire doesn't fear noise. She raised her sword. Say that again in the final ring. He smiled. I will, when you're ready to listen. Cliffhanger. Suddenly the ground beneath them cracked. A giant lava serpent exploded from the earth. Trial beast Volgzar, guardian of the fire trial, and it was heading straight for Virelia. Jax's eyes narrowed. Without thinking, he ran toward the monster. Not away. The fire trial begins. The ground screamed. Fire burst from every crack as the lava serpent Volgzar rose, its molten body twisting in the air like a burning whip. Towering as tall as a building, its mouth glowed white-hot. Its roar shook the sky. And Princess Virelia stood frozen, right in its path. She had trained to fight swords and soldiers, not monsters made of flame. Her legs refused to move. She was no longer the hunter. She was the prey. From across the burning ridge, Jack saw it all. He could have turned back. He had already passed the trial's boundary. Survival meant victory. But survival wasn't enough, not for him. Not for what this meant. Without a word, Jax charged through the smoke and fire, sprinting full speed toward the serpent, toward her. The EB, crowd watching on holograms around the Empire, gasped. The humans running toward the beast? Is he mad? Look, he's going for the princess. The serpent's tail struck the ground, causing a shockwave. Virelia fell to her knees. Flames whipped around her. She raised her arms, trying to cover her face. Then, a shadow landed. In front of her, Jax. He stood between her and the monster. No weapons, just his body. The serpent lunged. In a blur of motion, Jax grabbed a burning metal pole from the wreckage nearby, still glowing with heat. He spun it like a staff and slammed it across the creature's jaw with perfect timing. Boom! The serpent reeled back in surprise. Move! Jax shouted to Virelia. She hesitated. She had never been ordered before. Never protected by anyone. But her body listened. She rolled aside as the serpent struck again, missing her by inches. Together, they fell back behind a rock wall as fire erupted where they had stood. Jax panted once, just once, his chest rising slowly. "You okay?" he asked. Virelia stared at him like he was a stranger. "You saved me?" He looked at her, calm as ever. "No, I saved the person who could have walked away, but chose to fight." Her hands trembled, not from fear, but confusion. Something had shifted, something inside her. Back in the council chamber, the elders were stunned. He interfered in her trial. "No, he passed his own already," said the high elder. "He had no reason to return. And yet, he did." "Then what does that mean?" a younger one asked. The elder watched Jax on the screen. "It means he's not trying to win, he's trying to teach her something." Back at the trial grounds, Jax stood again as the serpent came for a second strike. This time, Virelia joined him, shoulder to shoulder. "You trust me now?" Jax asked. She didn't answer, but she raised her sword beside his burning pole. That was enough. Together they moved in perfect rhythm. She slashed its underbelly while Jax struck its side. It howled in pain. One final move, Jax leaped onto a ridge, called the beast's attention, and baited it into slamming its head down. Crack. The serpent smashed its own skull into the stone wall behind Jax and collapsed. Smoke rose. Silence followed. They had done it. Together. The crowd stood, not in mockery, but in stunned silence. Then slowly, cheers began to rise. Alien cheers. Respectful. Real. Virelia dropped her sword, staring at Jax. "I don't understand you," she said softly. Jax looked at the fallen serpent. "You don't need to." He turned to walk away, but she grabbed his arm gently. "Wait." He stopped. "You passed your trial. Why risk your life again?" Jax didn't answer for a moment. Then he looked her in the eyes and said, "Because no matter how arrogant you are, you still deserve to be saved." Cliffhanger. Suddenly, a council drone hovered down with a new message. Trial 2 begins in 48 hours. Trial of the mind. Only one may pass. Jax looked up slowly, and Virelia whispered, "Next time, we won't be allies." Mind against. Might. The arena was gone. Now they stood inside a massive floating cube of light and silence. No fire, no weapons, just walls made of shifting symbols, blinking codes and illusion. The trial of the mind had begun. No one could enter. No one could interfere. Only Jax and Virelia. Two minds. One path out. A calm voice echoed from above. "To pass the mind trial, you must find the exit before the cube collapses. Trust is forbidden. Betrayal is expected. Only one will leave." Virelia stood at one end of the cube, her eyes scanning the glowing walls. Jax stood at the other, unmoving. The room pulsed. Then, it split into 6 floating chambers, each shifting like a puzzle box. Illusions began forming. Memories, fears, dreams, and lies. The walls whispered, "He will betray you." She wants revenge. Jax walked slowly through a hall that bent like a snake. Mirrors on both sides showed his past, his time in the slave pits, the screams of his comrades, the humans burned alive while aliens laughed. He clenched his fists, but kept walking. Elsewhere, Virelia was trapped in a corridor filled with voices of her ancestors. "You let a human bite you. You stood behind him like a weakling. You feel... For him? She screamed and slashed at the shadows, but they didn't go away. Her own pride was attacking her. In the heart of the maze, they found each other again. No lava, no swords, just silence. You followed me? Virelia asked, her voice low. No, Jax replied. This place brought us back. Together it wants us to fight. She took a step back. Then let's give it what it wants. But Jax didn't raise his fists. Instead, he sat down, right there in the middle of the room, and closed his eyes. Virelia stared. What are you doing? Beating the trial, he said. She looked around. This is a trap. If we don't move, we'll both lose. Jax smiled faintly. That's what the trial wants you to think. High above, the council watched their screens. One elder frowned. He's doing nothing. No, said the high elder. He's doing everything. He's refusing to play the trial's game. Back inside the cube, the symbols on the walls flickered faster. It tried to confuse them. Fake doors appeared. The floor shifted. But Jax stayed still, and slowly. Virelia began to see it. The more she moved, the more the maze changed. But when she stood near him, everything slowed down. She walked to him, sat beside him. The lights dimmed. The cube trembled. Suddenly, the voice returned. You refused to betray. You chose patience over pride. The path is revealed. A bright doorway opened in front of them. They both stood, but the voice spoke again. Only one may leave. Virelia's breath caught in her throat. Jax looked at her. Take it. She blinked. What? You want to prove your strength? Let them see it. She stared at him. Why would you give up? Because I've already won, Jax said quietly. I made you stop running. Virelia stepped forward slowly, but halfway through the doorway, she stopped. She turned to him. I can't leave if you stay trapped. Jax nodded once. Then find a way to break the rules. Cliffhanger. Suddenly, she stepped back into the cube, and the walls exploded with light. Both minds have broken the trial's logic. Both shall pass. As the cube dissolved, they stood in the middle of the arena once more. The crowd roared, but Virelia didn't raise her arms in victory. She looked at Jax and whispered, You don't fight like us. And Jax answered, Maybe that's why you're still alive. The final duel, the air was heavy with silence. Not a cheer, not a whisper. Even the winds across Zelatrix Prime dared not move. Inside the great arena, a new stage had formed, a circle of truth, made of stone, older than the Empire itself. It was sacred ground. No tricks, no weapons, no running. Only two could enter. Only one would walk out standing. The trial of proving had reached its end. Jax stepped forward, his shirt stripped away, chest marked with burns from fire and trials. But his eyes, sharp, calm, unreadable, showed no fear. Across from him, Princess Virelia stood tall. Her golden armor was gone, replaced by the ancient warrior robes of her bloodline. For the first time, she looked human in her vulnerability, still proud, still strong, but unsure, not of the fight, but of what she was truly fighting for. The High Council elder raised a staff. Final trial. The duel of truth. One must make the other yield. No death, no tricks, no outside help. This is the final word. Staff hit the ground, boom. Virelia lunged first, her strikes were fast, trained, furious. Jax dodged, stepped, weaved. He didn't strike back, not once. The crowd began to murmur. Why isn't he fighting? Is he mocking her? Virelia's fist struck Jax's jaw. He took the hit, didn't fall, didn't raise his hand. What are you doing? She shouted, panting. Fight me. Jax stood still. Why? To prove you're stronger. I already did, she screamed, and charged again, knocking him to the ground. She pinned him, hands on his chest. Why won't you fight back? Jax looked her in the eyes. Because I don't need to break you to show you who I am. She froze. Everything around her blurred. All her life, strength meant domination. Power meant fear. Love? That didn't exist in her world. But now, beneath her hands, was a man who had never once tried to control her, only challenge her to be more. The High Elder called out, "Do you yield, human?" Jack stayed silent. But Virelia whispered, "No." She stood and pulled him up with her. "I yield," she said to the council, facing the shocked crowd. Gasps exploded across the stands. What? She submitted to the human? She's a royal. But the council could not interfere. Law was law. The duel was over. The human had proven dominance, not with pain, but with restraint. Back in the royal chamber later, Virelia sat quietly. No servants, no crown, just her and him. "You won," she said, not looking at him. "You shamed me." Jax leaned against the wall. "I didn't want shame, I wanted change." She finally looked up. "I hated humans," she admitted. "I know. I thought you were beneath me. And now?" She walked over slowly, her voice softer than ever before. "Now I don't know if you're beneath me, or if I was always standing on broken ground." Cliffhanger. A messenger burst into the room. "Your Highness, you must see this. On the screen, fleets of alien warships approaching Zelatrix Prime, a rebel uprising, and in the center of it was a symbol painted in blood, a human handprint. From enemies to equals, the warships arrived like shadows swallowing the stars, hundreds of them. The rebel clans of the outer Dust Belt had broken their silence, and now they flew straight toward Zelatrix Prime, burning the Emperor's banners as they came. In the palace control room, alarms rang. Holograms blinked red. Council members shouted over each other, "Activate the planetary shield." We were betrayed. How did they get past detection? But one screen silenced everyone. A war leader appeared, tall, scarred, eyes blazing with fire. Behind him hung a crude banner, a single symbol, a human handprint. "This is not your empire anymore," he growled. "This is retribution for what you did to them." The signal cut. Virelia stood frozen in the center of the room. She turned to Jax. "Is this your doing?" Jax didn't answer immediately. He stared at the handprint. "No," he said finally, "but I know what it means." She stepped forward. "Explain." He looked her in the eyes. "You wanted to humiliate one human, but the whole galaxy was watching. Now they see me as something more. A symbol. A spark. And fire follows sparks." In the rebel fleet, warriors gathered around their leader. "Who is the human?" a younger one asked. "He's not with us, but he showed the universe what's possible," the leader replied. "He made a royal kneel. Now we make empires fall." Back on Zelatrix Prime, the council prepared for war, but the people were not so sure anymore. Some aliens refused to fight. Some even chanted the human's name. "Jax, Jax, Jax." The council panicked, and the High Elder turned to Virelia. "You started this. You will end it. Kill him. Prove he's not one of us." Virelia stood still. She walked out of the chamber and found Jax standing on the high balcony watching the rebel ships in the sky. "I'm supposed to kill you," she said flatly. He didn't turn. "I figured." She stood beside him in silence, then said, "I don't want to." He turned now, slowly. "Why?" She looked at him, truly looked at him, and whispered, "Because for the first time in my life I don't feel above or below anyone. I feel equal." Moments later, Virelia walked back into the council chamber. The elders stood, waiting. She raised her voice. "I will not kill the human." Shouts erupted. "You betray your kind." But she spoke louder. "I will stand with him. Not because he's human, but because he reminded me that true strength is not about crushing the weak. It's about lifting others when you don't have to." Outside, the rebel ships locked onto fire, but then a signal was sent. Not from the council, not from the war fleet, from Virelia's royal seal, an ancient symbol of truce. She stood beside Jax on the palace roof, and when the rebel leader saw both of them, shoulder to shoulder, he paused. "That's not what I expected," he muttered. "The order to fire was never given. Peace didn't come all at once, but it started that day, with a human who bit a princess, and a princess who chose not to strike back." Final scene, months later. Jax stood in a field beyond the city walls, watching alien children train with human teachers. Virelia walked up beside him, dressed not as a royal, but as a warrior without a crown. She smiled. "You still think biting me was a good idea?" Jax smirked. "Depends, you gonna poke me again?" She laughed. He looked at her.
"Still think humans are weak?" She stepped closer. "No, I think they're dangerous, because they make people like me feel." They stood quietly, side by side, not enemies, not lovers, not royalty or rebels, just equals.